Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
I'm Gavin Courtney.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar, and thank you for joining us this morning.
You know, it's like another great Monday morning here.
That's right.
It's really beautiful, actually.
It is. It's sunny, it's dry, hot, but you know what? We'll take it. We're heading into that particular time of year, but there is a lot that we got to get into for today, so we'll be checking in on our weather very shortly.
Yeah. So I think yesterday, if anything, tells us it might be another hot week, but let's hold out for some good news, right?
Yeah. I think the weather the past week has kind of been like changing, like it's each month. You know, it felt like March on Friday. Saturday was a bit gloomy, and yesterday felt like a hot April day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and read our prepared forecast for today.
All right. So our general situation is looking like we are going to have some mainly fair and warm weather, and that's going to continue.
All right, our 24-hour forecast is for mostly sunny today and partly cloudy tonight. Mainly fair weather will prevail with only isolated showers developing.
And our winds, we are looking at winds going from east to southeast at 5 to 15 knots, and that is going to create a choppy sea state.
All right, our temperatures for today are going to be 88 along the coast, 92 inland, and 84 in the hills.
And tonight we are expecting lows of 78 along the coast, 70 inland, and 64 up in the hills.
All right, and our outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for a few cloudy spells along with the chance of a few showers developing mostly over the north and near some coastal areas. Otherwise, showers will be isolated. And we want to thank our forecaster at the Met Service, Angelia Guy, for preparing that update. All right, the clouds should help to cool things down.
I know, right? And I was looking at the satellite image and everything just looks so clear. There's no... So, safe to say that our weather will continue.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're going to keep things moving with our eye opener this morning, and our eye opener taken from dailyom.com goes like this. One of the nicest gifts you can give to yourself is surrounding yourself with loving and kind people. In our everyday life, we are surrounded by a variety of people. Some of the people we deal with on a daily basis are a joy to be with, and their loving presence nurtures and encourages us. Others may have the opposite effect, draining us of our energy, making us feel tired and exhausted. Our well-being can be easily influenced by those around us, and if we can keep this in mind, we will have greater insights into the quality of our social interactions and their energetic effect on us. Once we think more deeply about the people we interact with, it becomes easier for us to work toward filling our lives with people who help us cultivate healthy and positive relationships. When we surround ourselves with positive people, we clear away the negativity that exists around us and create more room to welcome nurturing energy. Doing this not only enriches our lives, but also envelops us in a supportive and healing space that fosters greater growth, understanding, and love of ourselves as well as those we care about.
You know, I really like that eye-opener. We often talk about similar subjects and the importance of like the people and the quality, I suppose, of people that you keep around you, because they make such a huge difference on things. And like the eye-opener says, that the more that you surround yourself with positive people who contribute, you know, love and support and things, then I mean, I guess when you think, I mean, it almost is like self-evident. It's where I don't know why my words are escaping me this
it's
morning.
It's Monday,
right? And
they're still in the weekend,
right? So no, but of course, you know, I always say too that you know your friends or you know your loved ones make a huge difference in your life, and I think that especially like in those difficult moments, you have to lean on them for support, and that's when you realize first of all, like, who really has your back and who's there for you, and who really contributes to your life in a positive way.
Yeah.
And those are the same people that will keep you going forward and keep you grounded, keep you sane. And that's because, we deal with so much, on a daily basis. We have so much human interaction, most of us. I mean, even in times of COVID, we still have, so making sure that the percentage of that is good is can be hard sometimes. But when you do have when you can identify those really important ones, then that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to high school for a moment and remember when we were told very often by our mothers that birds of a feather flock together, when they were concerned of the type of influence we were getting. And there's nothing that's turned out to be more true. When you have a supportive group of persons in your life, it can make a world of a difference. And not necessarily people who are just going to, lie to you or to tell you what you want, but honest people who will help you grow. It can make, it really does help to keep you grounded, and it also helps to keep you motivated to keep moving forward. And so sometimes I think when you find yourself dealing with a lot of drama, just do your own assessment. Who are the people that you're interacting with the most, that you're choosing to interact with the most, and what are they contributing to you, and what are you contributing to them? And if you do that assessment and you don't particularly think that people who are around you, good friends, you may love them, but they may be in a bad place, or family members who perhaps are a bit toxic, if you find that those persons are no longer helping you grow or contributing, then it's time to change the level of engagement that you have with them. You don't have to say, I'll never talk to you again and just bring more drama into your life. But just change, you don't have to go to them with your problems. You can keep it, very casual, talk about the kids or the weather or whatnot. But know that those things will have a great influence, and then be sure that you're seeking out people that you connect with and who you realize you can have a stronger, more supportive relationship with.
No, absolutely. And as we began by talking about high school, I thought about even earlier than that, like when we were really young kids and your parents kind of talk about, oh no, they don't want you to play with this one because he or she is like a bad influence on you. And I think that doesn't really, the same idea really holds true, as you get later on in life, because, the people that you interact with and the people, especially those who you interact with frequently, they do influence you and your behavior in certain ways. And making sure that keeping people who will keep you on the right track and keep you very positive is what's really important. And, you said the word toxic just now. And we can have so much toxic influences in our everyday life. So, keeping that sense of who's important and what's important to you and what's going to offer you positivity and love and support is what you have to figure out and try to keep that close to you.
That's right.
So that's why I like this message from the Eye Opener this morning.
All right, so that's our motivation for today. All right, so we're going to be moving into our show in a bit, and we are actually going to be having an extensive conversation with the Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing. We know last Friday there was the House meeting. There were some revelations made that his ministry has been looking into, so we want to talk about that a bit more. In fact, I think that this has perhaps been one of the pressing issues since the new administration took office, this assessment of contracts that have been given out, people who've been doing work for the previous administration, and whether or not the public has been getting the bang for their buck. And so that's going to be a part of the conversation. But of course, we're going to look at some of the plans that he has with his respective ministries moving forward.
And after that, we are going to be speaking with representatives from the Embassy of Taiwan, and we're going to be talking all about their 2021 scholarships that they're going to be offering. And we're going to also hear a little bit about the program, and if you are interested, how to apply. So that's going to be our final conversation for this morning.
All right, definitely want to find out all the details about that. They have a great scholarship program, very competitive, so we'll tell you how one of the recipients was able to get that scholarship, and we'll hear how you can apply. But of course, there's a lot of buzz this morning. Belizeans are happy whether they are football fans or not. I think I've confessed on the show many times. I'm not a big football fan.
Yeah.
I watch the Super Bowl every year for the halftime show and the breaks. But, I paid extra attention this time around to look out for number 56 and to see how it would pan out. The team won.
Yep.
And I definitely feel a sense of Belizean pride as a result. Of course, Rakim Nunez Roches was born here in Belize. His family moved to the States within his first year of life, but they keep a very good connection with their family home in Dangriga. And so yesterday was extra special for those people who tuned in.
No, absolutely. I'm like you, Marlene, honestly. When it comes to the actual game, I think the thing is that I watch the Super Bowl or something like every year like that as well. But I always have to sort of ask people, like, what are about the rules of the game? But it was an interesting watch. And of course, like many people, I was watching because we had one of our own being represented. And it was a great thing that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually won. So that was another layer that made it a bit more exciting too. I think that whenever you have somebody clear to root for or something, then it makes it much more interesting. And now that we have that you have a real reason, or at least I did, because I know that I saw some stuff on social media too. Some people are actually supporting the other team too. But I think they're more diehard fans than I am. Yeah. So I was watching for the usual things as well, like the halftime show, the commercials, and it was an interesting game as well. And it was a pretty, it was a really big victory for the Tampa Bay as well. Yeah.
And I think I saw somebody say, a Belizean has, the first Belizean to have a Super Bowl ring. And and that's when I think that sometimes we realize that we have this great potential in country. Rakim has been clearly, I'm sure it's a monumental moment for him as well. But, when people tune in and they know that someone who was born here has been able to achieve this heights in competitive sports, specifically in football, it just makes us proud. It makes us so proud. And so it was really great to watch it yesterday, just knowing a Belizean is there. It changes your perspective. So that was all the buzz yesterday. People, and I find too, a lot of Belizeans studied in Florida and a lot of them in the Tampa area. So even more so, they're connected to the Buccaneers because it kind of feels like a part of their home at one point.
No, yeah, for sure. I saw some of that on social media as well. So that was really interesting to see. Not even just the atmosphere and the energy leading up to the Super Bowl was pretty interesting to watch too. And I think that because of Rakim, a lot of people here were a lot more interested in talking about it, and were excited to see what was going to happen. So it just made it even better that Tampa Bay won.
Yeah. All right, so that was the fun that we got. There's the famous Tom Brady. So I think some people would have rooted for that team anyway because Tom Brady was on it.
Or against too, because he's pretty polarizing as well. I understand.
So we've been told. But the fun's over now, and congratulations to the entire family. Imagine how the family felt watching that. But from competitive sports to talking about politics. We are less than a month away from municipal elections and the by-election taking place in Corozal Bay. And this weekend, there was the endorsement for the PUP Corozal Bay candidate, Elvia Vega Samos, and she is the sister of Dido Vega, who was successful in the November elections. Here we have one of the pictures up.
Yeah, it was, of course, a very interesting weekend up in Corozal. Of course, the late Dido Vega did win in that constituency, and of course, it was quite. I think it was quite significant to see, his sister taking up the post. Hopefully continuing where he left off and trying to bring some of his vision to life, so that and of course As we see on the screen, she's the first female standard bearer for Corozal Bay, which is going to be another significant thing to look out for. And so we will be monitoring
Of course.
the weeks leading up into the election, because as we know, the by-election is going to be held on the same day as the municipal elections. Of course, we've been giving you coverage of municipal elections too, and the whole season leading up to March the 4th.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a really interesting race. So Elvia, as the picture says, is the first female standard bearer for Corozal Bay. Great achievement. We understand that she was the campaign leader for her brother as well, which means she was kind of the general going out in the streets, knows all the people, which is so common in politics. You know, you have a woman leader that often is taking the charge behind the representative, and you know, clearly very effective at doing it. So it's great. I imagine that it's a very it was a tough decision for her, perhaps, to want to move up. You know, you're behind the scenes and you have to be in the forefront. But then at the same time, as she has noted in, I know, previous social media posts, it's doing it in honor of her brother as well. Of course, David Dido Vega passed away due to COVID in December, just 1 month after the elections. And so now his sister will try to earn back his spot in the upcoming by-election. She's going to be going up against the former mayor of Corozal Town, Gilberto Campos, very popular mayor. He was successful, I think, for 2 or 3 terms, and so now he's moving up as the representative for Corozal Bay. So it is going to be a very interesting race for this upcoming by-election.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny to think about a by-election happening, because at least for some of us, you know, the November elections seem a bit like, you know, they seem so far away now, especially to think about the upcoming municipal elections as well. And it just goes to show, you know, how politics is, there's a sort of cycle that just keeps moving and the wheels keep turning. So as that happens, of course, we will continue to bring you coverage of all the events that lead up to the big day. We are going to continue our segments with meeting the mayoral candidates for the upcoming municipal elections. And so we've already
covered the north. We did Corozal and Orange Walk. And so it's Tuesdays and Thursdays that we have our mayoral candidates come in.
Yeah, and we get to learn a little bit more about the candidates themselves and some of their plans for their municipalities. And we will be interviewing all of the candidates from the major political parties that are going to be running in the major municipalities. So as Marlene said, you can watch that on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and we'll be giving you the coverage of all of the other important events as well on Channel 5.
And the slates are now finalized. So the final 2 conventions took place this weekend. There was both of the People's United Party. There was a convention in Punta Gorda, and there was a convention in Dangriga to finalize the slates in the southern municipalities. So at this point, the race is just about moving forward. It really does feel like a sluggish election season. We are less than a month away, and it doesn't have all the excitement that we're used to, but I think that's kind of par for the course given all that the country is going through as well.
Exactly. Once we're still dealing with I haven't heard this phrase for a while, but the new normal when it comes to COVID.
Yeah, it's just normal.
That's true. With with all the issues related to the pandemic, of course, you know, the elections and campaigning is going to have a different atmosphere, as we've even observed with the general elections. And then there's also not only because of the health concerns, but also because of economic concerns. There's not as much money to be going around spending on the usual things. So even politics has changed a little bit, but it's still interesting to see all of the candidates and what their plans are, and you know, keeping things forward even in hard financial times, and when we're still also affected by the issues related to the pandemic. So it's nice to still sometimes hear a bit of positivity, and some some visions from all the different candidates.
Yeah, you know, and I guess a part of it too is that when you talk about municipal elections, it's local. You know, you're going to be focusing kind of just on your town or your city. where you are doing your campaigning. So it's about being able to get into those different areas and see what's happening there. Here in Belize City, both slates are finalized. I definitely see a lot of house-to-house campaigning taking place over the weekend. I saw a couple of teams moving around. I do hope they're being safe. It just feels it feels concerning to think of going and interacting with each group. But yeah, and I think one of the questions that we will have, and it won't be answered till the day of the election itself, is how comfortable people are going to be going out to vote. Generally, you know, you don't get as much participation in a municipal election as you would for a general election. And I think the fact that we are still in a pandemic, people are still very cautious and concerned. I wonder how it's going to impact the overall vote as well.
Yeah, and we had this same concern with the general elections as well, and we were able to still see that a good amount of people still came out to vote and exercise their vote. It was interesting to see that, and this was again internally, I'm thinking about the People's United Party, you know, finalizing, doing their voting for their slate electronically, and I think that as we progress, you know, not only with time, but also because of issues related to the pandemic, I wonder how we'll see the use of technology moving forward, if that's going to be play a bigger role, if people are going to be comfortable doing that, because there's also some people who prefer the traditional system. Some people don't really trust technology like that. But I think I thought that was a really interesting thing to happen in Belize. And I'm wondering, you know, what we'll be doing, you know, maybe 5 years down the line. Who knows?
Voting machines, man.
Yeah.
We'll see. But as we said, this is, you know, like we went from competitive sports and, you know, campaign races do feel like competitive sports at times. So we just wanted to provide that update as to where we are with the big races that are taking place. Of course, we'll have these stories and more in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m. so you can get all the details there. We got to get moving into our conversation for today. So we will take a break, but before we do,
we have a birthday shout out. So from all of us here at Open Your Eyes on Channel 5, we want to wish a very happy birthday to Tamara Moody. So Tamara, we hope you have a really great day, and we wish you many, many more. So happy birthday once again.
So we'll take that break now. When we come back, we'll be joined by the Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing. Please stay tuned.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being measured or cut off when you need to be connected? It's a fact that when you sign up for Smart's Plus plan, you get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. And it's a fact that you can sign up with your group of up to 5 members for Smart's Share plans and up to 40 members for Smart's Enterprise plans for unlimited talk, text, and data. Smart has the true unlimited plans. That's a fact. Be smart and live smart.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we are just getting our first conversation for this morning started. As we told you earlier, we are giving you an introductory interview with the Honorable Julius Espat, who is the Minister of Infrastructure, Development and Housing. Good morning, Minister, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Gavin. Good morning, Marlene.
Minister, just to get us started, perhaps you can just describe or talk a little bit about what it's been like since you've taken office in the months that have passed since November. Can you describe in a nutshell what it's been like taking on your ministry and what the, or just what it's been like in government?
It's been exciting. It's been 3 months of lots of work, but very exciting. We have gotten to meet professionals that work at the Ministry of Works, and we have been able to interact with other ministerial colleagues. And we have had the experience of being in cabinet, and we have had the experience of sharing information with people. It's extremely exciting to be able to have an opportunity to work for and on behalf of the people of Belize. And I must say thanks to the Prime Minister for giving me the opportunity to be the Minister of Infrastructure, Development and Housing. Mm-hmm. It's a very important ministry, and so it's a challenge. We hit the ground running in our ministry, really. Yeah. And we didn't have a chance. We didn't have an opportunity to sit back and appreciate everything. We had to get working because as soon as we got elected, we were in this flood scenario, which puts us in a state of emergency when it pertains to road works. And so we hit the ground running, and we are learning as we go along. But it's been a pleasant experience. I think there's a lot more that we need to do, and there's a lot more organization that we need to put in place. But it's been positive for us, to be honest. With everything that has happened, it's been positive. And I think that is important moving forward for this government. That we have to, yes, we have to analyze what we found and everything, but we have to keep our heads held high. And we have to make sure that this economy moves forward, and our ministry is one of the ministries that can help in that endeavor.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that, because I think that's perhaps one of the most discussed issues coming out of your ministry, is taking that look as to what was handed over to you. You have what is an amalgamation of works and housing. So talk to us about the state of affairs.
Well, in any business, if you take over any business, and that's more or less what we're doing, the largest business in the country, you have to make an analysis of where you are. And so what we did is we divided our work in two parallel approach. One, let's analyze where we are, what we found, and at the same time, let's work. Yeah. And so that's what we started to do. And we started to look at the personnel at the ministry to see who was there to start with. Mm-hmm. Then we started to look at their capabilities. We started to see who can do the work or who wants to do the work. And so we went through that process. And then as you go along, you start analyzing why has work not been going on for quite a period of time. And then you go in deeper, and then you find out, well, what do I have to work with? What equipment do I have? And then as you go deeper, you start realizing, well, there's a heap loads of equipment that you're supposed to have, but you don't have. And so we sent out teams to be able to look for them. And that's how the investigation started. It wasn't that we went in looking for any specific person or anything. We wanted to analyze what are the capabilities of the ministry, especially because we had to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So then from there, we started to look at contracts, specific contracts. But that's a long process. In 3 months, there's no way we can get to the bottom of everything.
Yeah.
But in 3 months, we found quite a bit that was alarming to us. And that's why with the information we received initially and we documented initially, we thought it was important that we sent out information to the Commissioner of Police, to the Integrity Commission, to the Attorney General's Ministry. It was important that we establish that there is wrongdoing and to what level it is. Why? Because it is important that the people that were participating in it or the ones that believe that they would want to participate in it would take a second look. And that gives us an opportunity to implement new measures that will be able to curtail, I wouldn't say eliminate, because that's a difficult word, but curtail the level of corruption that we encounter.
Help us understand for a bit, though. So let's use the example of the allegations that have been made with the misuse of resources within the Ministry of Works. How much did the people within the ministry actually know? Did people know that a piece of equipment, for example, and we're not talking like a laptop that you can hide, these are machines, was being transported from one place to a private property?
I think people know more than they're saying, and they're scared because their employment is on the line. So I can understand that. They were living in an environment that was extremely vindictive. I can understand that. What I can't understand was the level of, I wouldn't say ignorance, the level of ignoring the reality. You're not talking of matchbox cars, as you rightly put it. We're talking about large equipment, bulldozers and excavators and backhoes and tractors. So, but the problem was it was sustained. It wasn't that you're taking this equipment and using it for a week or two at your farm. It was sustained for years, every day, where the workers would be transported from the compound of the ministry in Belmopan. They would be transported directly to these farms. A drum of diesel would be placed in the vehicles. And so it was a systematic approach. And you might not see the bulldozers moving because once they move once to the area, they were never brought back. And so the people that knew the most were the ones that physically did the work, and they're the ones that have come forward to put their declarations in place. And I was impressed and in awe with the ability for them to just do that at this point in time. But apart from that, there are other people that have had to facilitate this movement and would have had to have had knowledge of what happened. And that is where the investigation, I believe, needs to go further. And so what we have done with that knowledge is to try to put systems in place within the ministry to avoid that happening in the future. And I think we're pretty close to putting that in place with the cooperation of the people that we are working with from the public servants within the ministry. And they're cooperating fairly well because they themselves understand the problem. And so it's a two-pronged approach, finding out and then trying to find a way to solve it and move on.
And you also earlier brought up the issue of contracts that were, concluded between the ministry and certain entities. Can you also shed a little bit of light on the discovery of discoveries made there, and perhaps the state of finances of the ministry and of what was, what was spent and what are commitments that perhaps still existing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you speak about state of finances, you kind of want to get a little bit depressed because the entire government is going through a difficult scenario. And we are constantly reminded by our Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance that we are borrowing $1 million a day to just pay payroll. So it's a reality we have to keep at the back of our mind. And we are constantly reminded by our Prime Minister and the difficulties he has trying to allocate budgets for all ministries. And so it has been a difficult task to work within that environment. But the contracts, you look at contracts in various ways. A contract can be legally drafted But that doesn't mean that the contract is done on the basis of value for money. For example, right now we are trying to look at the last phase of the Caracol Road. We are in you could say, a semi-contractual agreement with the lending institution. And so it's difficult to maneuver there because you have a commitment. And so what we have tried to do is to look at the scope of the work to see if we can find a way to minimize the scope of the work and to minimize the rates, and try to convince them that that's a better approach. I believe that if we end up, and if Cabinet agrees that we have to continue with the Caracol Road because we have to, maybe we can convince Cabinet that by saving money, it's a good approach. Right now, the analysis we have been doing with our engineers, it looks that we can save maybe about $25 million if we go with a different approach. And this week, we'll be having meetings with our Prime Minister to give him the pros and the cons.
What do you mean by a different approach, just to clarify?
Hello?
What do you mean by a different approach?
Well, when you have a contract for a road, it stipulates the type of material that is used, it stipulates the width of the road, it stipulates the rates.
So like downsizing the scale or quality of the project?
You look at every aspect of it. Rates, meaning how much you charge for it, and scope, meaning size and length and width and everything. You have to understand the Caracol Road, in my opinion, has always been not a priority for this government. In opposition, we mentioned the same, and I still believe it's not a priority because we are placing millions of dollars in an area that is not populated, that does not necessarily need it. I drove through that area last week, and the environmental damage that I believe it can possibly have is something that I don't think people really analyzed or considered. I have noticed for example, if you drive across to Yucatan, you have these highways driving through areas that are reserves, and they have like bridges where the animals can cross. We haven't even considered any of those things. But you also have a contractual agreement. You have an agreement with a lending institution that has already been signed. And so that's what I'm saying between the pros and the cons when you do a final decision. Can you break that agreement with the international institutions without it having long-term effect, the relationship? Or can you, on the other hand, try to reduce the costs by substantial amount so that maybe you can use a portion of that cost and implement it in projects that are, in our opinion, top priority. So that's where we are right now. And I'm just giving that road as an example of the analysis that needs to be done. And we are doing that for every area that we face. But our mandate and our focus is different than the past administration. Our mandate is not to be building new and white elephant type projects. Our mandate is to maintain our existing infrastructure to a level that is internationally acceptable, and to give support to the agro-productive sector, because we are in a difficult situation right now, and I believe we have to support that industry, which can possibly take us out of this economic crisis. And the agro-productive sector works hand in hand with the tourism industry, so we're not ignoring the other industries. But that's the mandate given to us by the people and via the manifesto that we had proposed before the general election, and that is the mandate given to myself as the Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. And so that's the approach we're taking. We're looking at priorities, and reality, when we started to look at it, it's been like 12 years that the rural areas, the agro-productive sector, the sugar roads, the citrus roads, the banana roads, the farmer, the small scale, medium scale farmers' access to their farms were totally abandoned. And so when you abandon something for so long, it is even more difficult and more expensive to be able to bring it back to a normal level. And so that's where we are right now.
And can you also talk a little bit about, you said just now that this government is going to be taking a different approach from the previous administration. Can you talk a bit about your team, perhaps at the ministry, and talk about the people in your ministry who you have to support and how you plan to implement some of the vision that you do have?
We are basically using, I would say, of the professionals, about 90 to 95% of the staff that was there before. And to a large extent, these are public servants and very professional. The ministry was kind of segregated to a certain level. You had the chief engineer along with his engineers that would do the maintenance of roads, for example. And then you had different units that do the procurement of these projects based on the international lending institution. It was important that we analyzed everybody's role. And to a large extent, most of those people are in place. What we did was to create a different organizational chart. I am so happy that Mr. Victor Espat joined us as CEO, and he has a lot of experience in how to organize and how to strategize. So him and I have been putting a lot of work together to be able to organize what we have and to bring the team together. When you have teams that are divided, it creates conflict, and conflict creates chaos, and that's what was happening. And at the same time, there was no direct relation, there was no chain in command in place. And so everybody was at the point of frustration. A lot of guys were ready to retire. A lot of guys were at the point of not renewing their contracts. And so we sat with them. We took some time. The first month was just getting to know each other. And we gave them opportunities. Let's try it this way. Let's do this project. And while they were doing it, we were analyzing their competence. We were analyzing their energy, their efficiency. And we end up deciding, we can work with everybody here. It's just a different outlook at things, a different mindset. And I am happy to say that everybody now is energized. You can see it's not just a matter of speaking about it. We have accomplished quite a bit in the last 3 months, and the guys want to go to work because they know that their points of views and their input is being listened to. We have what we call a technical meeting. In fact, one will happen in the next hour and a half. Every Monday morning, there is a technical meeting with all the engineers to be able to discuss what happened the week before and what we will do this week. And the CEO personally sits into those meetings and direct traffic, if you want to say. And I attend as much as I can. Yeah. But after those meetings, then the CEO and I sit, and he gives me the information that was discussed. We come up with what the policy will be, and we move along. And parallel to that, we have our Tuesday meetings in Cabinet, where Cabinet basically gives me instructions as to what collectively we can or we want to do. Yeah. And then subsequent to Cabinet meeting, the CEOs have their own caucus. So it's a lot of organization that is in place to be able to carry out the work of the people of Belize.
I appreciate that insight, because we don't very often talk about the institutional strengthening that is necessary to kind of get things back on track or to deliver a brand new vision, as one would expect with a new administration. Let's bring this back to some of the issues that you raised in the House on Friday. And we're going to start with the revelation that you made based on the investigation into Belize Infrastructure Limited. I want to start off by saying that the prior general manager has issued a press release saying that, in fact, one of the things you noted in the House of Representatives that Bill had access to the smart stream is not true.
Well, our technicians, our IT technicians went in from the ministry in Belmopan to the offices, and they found the connection, and they're the ones that gave us the report. So you will have, everybody has to have the right to a defense. I don't have a problem with that. But the fact is that the physical line is there. The fact is that they could have connected because they have specific passes. And that is how we were alerted. It's not that I have made this up. We get report from professionals within the ministry, and that's why it was brought up. It was brought up because it's a concern. It was brought up because Bill has been running wild with our money, meaning the people's money, for too long. Over $100 million and minimal oversight is something that we believe is wrong. And so, yes, you will have opposing views as to if this was done or if that was done. But the end result is you spent over $100 million. You spent over $100 million on projects that, in our opinion, was overvalued, were in layman terms you would call bloated contracts. And the reality is 80% of those contracts were given to one single firm. And so that is what leads you to going further into an analysis, an audit, or an investigation. And so that's where we are with that. We found, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I want to dig into that deeper, because we see this happen very often, and usually the response is, I know it came up under the previous, when the previous administration was still in power, and the response always is, well, you know, we do due diligence, we follow the guidelines that are provided by the international funders, and in fact, these people are legitimately contracted based on international standards. How do you explain that?
And those are manipulated. You can manipulate anything to your direction if you don't have proper oversight. And that's what happened. You had a general manager making decisions with neither the auditor general on top, minimal oversight from the contractor general. There was nobody she reported to except the Ministry of Finance directly, the Prime Minister and the Financial Secretary. So there is no oversight, and without oversight, you can basically do what you want. You can manipulate in a contract and put a couple words that determines that one contractor can get the contract over and over and over. But the end result is glaring in your face, and that's the most important thing. It is impossible that only one architectural or contracting firm in the country is capable of getting those kinds of work. When you have over 52 registered architects in the country, when you have over 150 registered engineers in the country, and when you have over hundreds of contractors in the country, and you are telling me that none of those singly or jointly can compete, that is something that everybody will understand. You don't have to get technical with that. You don't have to be an attorney or an engineer to understand that. And so you can try to defend it as best as you can from the other side, and I respect that, and I think that they will. And when the audit gets a little bit deeper, they will have to. And so it's good that they're practicing right now.
And when you know, if we go back to before the election, some of these issues were already raised. And I recall you doing kind of quantifying the cost per square foot, which is something that can help people understand whether or not it is very exorbitant or within the range of the work expected. From what you've seen so far, what's the value of the work that we're getting, have gotten and are getting? Because some projects are still outstanding.
Architecture and construction is very subjective. What you might think you're getting is nice and fine is different than what somebody else might consider fine and nice. But let's look at the one that we spoke of before the general election, which was the Foreign Affairs building. We calculated that to be, I think it was like $600 per square foot, approximately. And you can also argue in how you come up with a cost per square foot. Is it just the building itself? Is it the building along with the landscaping on the side? Is it the building along with the fence or whatever you want to put? Depends on how you're looking at it. But at the end of the day, if you are I'll put it as a homeowner, if you're a homeowner and you're building your house with everything that you believe has to go into your house, including the yard and the doorbell and everything, you will put that number in because that's the number you need to go to the bank to take out a mortgage to pay for your house. So that's the number you use to be able to get a cost per square foot. Now, if you talk about it technically, then you can only look at the building. But in any way you look at it, it is far more than the construction rates are in Belize. The rates in Belize, and I know because I've been in the industry for the last, 27, close to 30 years, The rates in the Belize, the highest I have seen, and that's also a subjective point of view, but the rates that I have seen at the highest are around $250 Belize per square foot for a high-end resort type construction, which normally is more than a commercial construction because it has more detail. And so you're looking in San Pedro, for example, the construction rates of the condos that are coming up are around $250 Belize per square foot, more or less. And from there you go down. In Belize City, you have houses that you can build for $125, $150, $175 per square foot. It depends on where you are. It depends on the type of materials that you use, and it depends on the complexity of the project. But we are within an acceptable range. The numbers that these buildings that firms were doing were far exceeds that, and the justification that they give is that it's first world. Well, that's just a fancy word for saying you're maybe using some new type of materials that has never been used in Belize. But is first world a reality in a developing nation's budget? And you're dealing with public money. You're not dealing with a private entity that's wealthy, that's a millionaire that wants to build his house and he's willing to pay whatever cost for the best materials. You're looking at a developing country that needs to give service to its people. So you want to build a building that is functional. You want to build a building that is not always totally dependent on air conditioning, for example, because you need to have circulation of air in case power outages occur, which they normally do. And so that's what I'm saying. You have to look at the reality in which you live, and therefore the projects that are proposed and accepted and completed should be done within that reality. The projects that we have seen on the bill and the projects that these contractors have been doing for government are not reality. And I would invite you, go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs right now and look at what is there. Half of the building is not usable. It is just based purely on aesthetics, and it is not functional. And it is not the Minister of Infrastructure saying this, it is the people that will occupy the building. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has mentioned it. The CEO of Foreign Affairs has mentioned it. Look at the picture you have there. You see some green shrubbery on the walls. Those are artificial plants. They are plastic plants that you would see at a funeral home. And so this is what I'm saying. You're saying that it is green architecture, it is first world architecture, yet the materials that you utilize are inferior quality. I was appalled when I went into this building and I went into the lobby area and I saw marble on the wall and I said, wow, well, it's a nice, and I went closer and I examined that the marble was not marble, it was formica, assimilating marble. And I was like, whoa. And for that cost per square foot, you are giving me formica instead of marble. And so the more you dig deeper into these projects, you realize that it is wrong. It is wrong from all angles. And you can try to defend it and justify it legally, but ethically, morally, and in every other way that you look at it, value for money.
What's outstanding on these contracts?
Yes,
help us understand, because when you lay out the scenario as it is now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, the building on Lake Independence Boulevard, those technically aren't completed, so they're still supposed to be completed before handed over. You mentioned in the House that there is going to be a pause put on ongoing constructions, but what is left?
Well, Foreign Affairs is not part of bill.
Okay.
So that I believe will be completed.
Okay.
This one we are putting it on, well, it's not the ministry putting it on pause. Parliament has put it on pause. I don't know if you looked at if you had time to review the House meeting, but there was a bill for second reading to be able to approve $7.5 million to complete this building with the existing contracts in place. Mm-hmm. And that is on pause. And Parliament has not found it in its wisdom to continue with the project until a full analysis and investigation and report is given back to the House or to Cabinet so that they can be comfortable in their hearts and in their minds that they can proceed with this building. So it's not that we are abandoning the project. It is just on pause until we start looking at the various contracts. So what we'll do, we'll start looking at the smaller portions, the landscaping, the roadway, the parking, and if those are fine, then we continue. Then we start going into what is pending of it. We don't even know where the contracts are. We haven't gotten all that information as to what's the pending value and who is supposed to do what. And so that is due diligence. It's not that we are stopping the project and we don't want it to occur. I mean, it is important that government gets into a building, but you start looking at, this one is ending up being $28 million. Marlene, I would like you someday, if it is possible, to go to the 4th floor of that building. And it is a personal experience that I think you all need, and Gavin, I think you all need to do it. Go to the 4th floor of that building or the 5th floor and look around and see the environment in which that building is placed. And you're looking at your government is spending $28 million on this monstrosity. And you have right beside it people on London bridges, homes that were built of plywood, some without roofs, some without walls. The level of poverty that surrounds the building. And then your heart starts pounding. And then you start asking questions, why is it and how is it that anybody can justify this when we haven't even considered looking at the reality of life of the people that surround the project? And so all of that starts coming into play. But sometimes it's best that people experience it on their own instead of listening to somebody else or listening to two sides of a story. It's important that people see the reality. Now, I'm not saying that government does not need office buildings. All I'm saying is that if you're designing or building an office building for government, it is the people's money you're using, and we should definitely take into consideration value for money. And in my humble opinion, the project should be less expensive than the private sector and cost per square foot. It should not be more expensive because government has the ability of subsidizing some of the project, meaning you can possibly have duty free. You can, because it's on a larger scale, you can convince the people that are participating that their rates could be less. If it's more than one job that they are getting on a continuous basis, then you can evaluate that and say, hey, instead of charging X amount for one project, I'm giving you 50. Maybe you could give me a better rate. That's what I believe should be done with government's expenditure, because it is the people's money that we're spending. And I think the past administration took the opposite point of view. Because it is government and because it is not their money, they decided that they could do whatever they wanted with it, how they wanted with it, and the value started to escalate to a ludicrous level. Of course, any contractor in Belize would want to build a house for $600 per square foot. Any contractor would be happy with that. But it's not right. It is not true. It is not reflective of our economy. It is not reflective of our reality as a country. And I believe it is unethical. I believe it is immoral. And if we find out in the end, after the investigation and the audit is done, we might find out that it might also be criminal.
Minister, we certainly have a lot to talk about, but we are going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we are going to be continuing our conversation. So to all our viewers, we are speaking this morning with the Honorable Julius Espat, who is the Minister of Infrastructure, Development and Housing, and we'll be continuing the conversation after a short break. So please stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customer's experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Caused intense flooding overnight in the western and
Babe.
southern parts of the country.
Yeah? Do we need to renew the insurance policy?
The
insurance policy?
Were impassable
Oh,
as
let me
water
check.
gushed across the thoroughfare.
Renew your policies, file a claim, and even send us a message using RFNG online.
No, we're good. It says we're covered.
Okay, great.
It pays to get it right with RFNG Insurance, a road group company.
Why, Tony?
Why, kid, what you going on, man?
I'm actually going to see you because I need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just ran out of the last batch, must have been like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have that thing? What is going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we are continuing our conversation with the Honorable Julius Espat, Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing. And we have been discussing a lot, unpacking a lot of what has been found in the ministry and also some of the minister's ideas for moving forward. But shortly before the break, we were discussing the issue of certain government contracts and issues that that you had raised in the House, Minister. Marlene had asked earlier, and I think we can maybe unpack a little bit more about talking about some of the due to those contracts and perhaps other agreements that were in place. Can you talk a bit more about some of the existing work that needs to be done? You had, earlier on in the show, you gave one example of the Caracol Road and thinking of maybe there might be some room for changing or restructuring, renegotiating. Is that also a possibility for some of the other contracts that perhaps we might not be able to afford or things like that?
No, the Caracol Road is possible because that phase has not been done as yet, meaning the contract was signed, the agreement was done, but the contract was not awarded as yet. The bidding was completed and everything. But the other projects are ongoing, like for example, the coastal road, that you can't really change that has already been agreed upon. And so that we're looking, we just sent the information to the Attorney General's office for her to have a look at that contract. What's ongoing also is the George Price Highway up to Santa Elena. That is in its final phase. So we're just monitoring to make sure that the work is up to the level that everybody agreed to. And so we have more supervision on it. So that will be completed. Yeah. And so it's, as I said, it's very difficult when you have a contractual agreement to break it, only if you want to get into the scenario like what the previous government did with BTL, where they broke the contracts, where they acquired the company. And you've seen where that takes us.
And the cost associated with it.
Yeah, with BTL, we calculated it cost us $500 million for something that was worth $100 million. So we are also cognizant of that fact, and we have to be careful. We're also finding contracts that people's personal contracts are written in such a way, as you have seen with the director of BTB, that makes it very difficult to deal with. And they're written maliciously. They're written, in my opinion, unethically. But they're legally, and Gavin would probably know more than I, definitely know more than I when it comes to this. And so how do you deal with a situation like that when you have lots of personal contracts that are done in that manner, that if you touch it, it can hurt you more than if you just leave it.
Yeah.
And so we are faced with all that situation, and we have to be careful. I tell everybody it's like we are walking on minefields, and we have to be careful as to how we put our foot down. But we can't be afraid to move on.
Yeah.
You have to do what you need to do, and so that's where we are right now. For example, the financial records at Bill that I mentioned in the House. If you go to the website of Bill, it has financial of your daily operations, but there is no financials as to the contracts themselves, and the over hundreds of millions of dollars is where the problem is. It is where we want to get at, and we have not been able to get to those details as yet, because that information is difficult to get to. And so they're very creative in what they did. I think they had to be creative in what they did, because it was not done for any good intention. And so we will have to be even more creative to be able to pull it apart, so that we can analyze it.
And as you said earlier, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into kind of just assess where you are when you're taking over, and what leeway you have or finances available to even get work done. So these contracts are under revision. We've been hearing that, and that's on the Attorney General at this point. Some of the issues of misuse of resources, we know, is also with the police department. So let's talk about some of the work that you have been able to do during this time and how you prioritize that. There's some hot mix going down. I've seen the images online. And so you've been working on kind of spot areas. How are you prioritizing these spaces?
Well, we are in the emergency restructuring phase. We tend to forget fast that we just came through two major storms, Eta and Iota, I believe. And so Cabinet had given us a budget to deal with emergency spending. And that is the work that we are presently working on. The emergencies destroyed a lot of our main arteries. The Philip Golson Highway that they're putting the hot mix right now was one of them. The George Price Highway coming out of Belize City all the way to the Burton Canal is another area of concern. The sugar roads in the north, we've spent millions of dollars recently dealing with only 50 sugar roads, 25 in Orange Walk, 25 in Corozal, and 25 sugar roads. It's not a lot. You have to understand the country of Belize has about nearly 2,500 miles of roads, and 80% of those being rural roads. Only 20% are the ones that we coming out of the city drive on. And so we have spread our wings as wide as we possibly can to be able to accommodate as much of the constituencies that we possibly could. I am happy to report that we have been doing work in the Punta Gorda district that has not received any help for the last 12 years. So we are in lots of the village in Toledo West. We are doing the Monkey River Road, which was not touched for quite a long time. We just finished work in doing drain work and roads in the Independence area. We were in the Stan Creek district, in Stan Creek West, in Dangriga itself. We were in Sarawee, Hopeville, in some of the villages in Stan Creek. In the west, we have been working in the Los Tambos area. We have worked in the Bullet Tree Road area, Bullet Tree Falls Road area. We have worked in the San Antonio Village. We have worked in St. Matthews, some work in Camalote. We are starting to do some work in Cotton Tree. In the Belize district, Belize Rural North, we are about to start the causeway for the Crooked Tree area. We are in other villages in Belize Rural North, Belize Rural Central. We've also been doing some work. That hot mix is in Belize Rural Central. And Orange Walk, we have done the San Esteban Road and countless sugar roads in Orange Walk, and the same in Corozal. So we are spreading the little budget that was given to us as best as we can. And right now, presently, we are we are preparing the budget for the new fiscal year. That will be a challenge because the pressure is coming on our ministry is quite a lot.
Of course.
The reality.
There's no time people are more upset with the government than when they go through a bumpy road.
I know the people going on the mile 12 and 13 on the Philip Wilson Highway will be happy with us right now. I drove it yesterday, and it was an awesome feeling for me to see that hot mix going down. It shows progress. It shows that we care. I would love to have that hot mix be placed on every street that is in need of it. But we won't be able to right now. But I believe we will be able to with time. Yeah. And that's what we are doing. We are programming. Guys, we haven't even completed our 100 days. We're a couple days away.
Almost there.
And we are almost there at our 100 days. And I know the expectations are high. And that's why every time I get an opportunity, I give thanks to the people of Belize for having patience. Because you're right, Marlene, when your vehicle drop in a hole, you're not happy. And worse, not when you drop in the hole, when you have to go to the mechanic. And you're even more mad. And so these are things that we understand. But we are doing a lot of work. We are doing more than they have ever done when it pertains to maintenance of our existing infrastructure. And we will do more.
Minister, I think you said a very critical point where people are very impatient to see things moving and to see some change and improvement. And I think it's just, it's a matter of what happens when there's an administration change. If you change the government, you should see changes in your realities. Now, the economic situation is one that's been widely discussed. Let me hear from you. How do you go through your budget consultations and the preparation of your budget, knowing that you have a very costly work to execute, whether it's housing or whether it's infrastructure development? How do you prepare your budget given the current situation?
Like a business plan, I have to package it to let the people that will approve it understand that it's beneficial to them. So if without infrastructure, you will not be able to implement any of the other programs to be able to drive the economy. Without infrastructure, your agricultural industry, the productive sector will not be able to produce. Speak to any cane farmer, and if they can't take their cane to the mill, it is lost. So I have to package it so that people can understand the end result. It's not that I am asking for money to spend on roads because I want roads to be built because it will be beneficial to the ministry and to the image of the ministry. No, we are asking for financing for the ministry to help a program that will be able to take us out of this economic problem that we face. And so it is how you look at things, and that's what we do. We look at the reality and then we sell the package. Now, I haven't sold the package as yet. I am in the process of, and so hopefully I will be able to sit with the Prime Minister and Cabinet and let them understand But I also have to be faced reality. I can't come up with a budget that's ridiculous that I know cannot be approved, because it would be unfair on the Prime Minister, it would be unfair on Cabinet, and it would be unfair on me. It would be unfair to the Belizean people to push something that is not a reality right now. So we have had meetings in Cabinet. Cabinet has given us more or less a directive: see how you can be more efficient, and try as best as possible to be as efficient as you can to try to achieve your goals. I know that's a very general way of looking at things, but it gives you a good idea that you have to look at each line item to see in reality if you need it. Maybe you never need 50 rolls of toilet paper, maybe only 10 could have sufficed. Maybe you don't need to buy new computers right now. Maybe the ones that you have can last you for the maybe you don't need new vehicles. Maybe you don't need all of these things. But definitely you need a sugar road so that the crop can go to the mill. Definitely you need to be able to have the main arteries, the George Price Highway, the Philip Golson Highway, trafficable, because that's where your a large concentration of your population lives and uses. And so we are packaging all the realities so that when it starts this week, we will be able to have an audience with the Prime Minister and Cabinet, and every ministry will be able to put their proposals forward. And then we have to be, like in life, we have to be willing to give and take.
To compromise, yes.
And who is the better negotiator, I think will get ahead a little bit. And the Prime Minister at the end of the day will have to analyze all the proposals. And in his wisdom, he will have to make that final decision and convince Cabinet that this is the way to go. That's how I see it. I might not have it technically correct, but in essence, I believe that is what we will do.
So, you know, when you spoke of the building on Lake Independence Boulevard, you know, you noted something I think that we don't discuss enough, and that's the extent of poverty that people live in this country. And that makes the other ministry, the other part of your ministry, so essential: housing. Before going into election, you know, manifesto promise was to get 10,000 starter homes going. What is the plan, and especially as you move into budget consultations, to get something moving in the housing department?
We've already started. As I was mentioning in the House, to do housing, you have to do planning first. That's the first phase. So we are far ahead at the planning phase. We know the designs that we will be implementing. We have done the plans for them to a large extent. And now we are looking at it's called project development. It's looking at this plan to see what construction methods can be used to make it less expensive. Do we go the traditional way and use the local labor? That's a very good approach, because then you have more employment. Or do you go the prefabricated way, where you can build more in a lesser time, but using less labor? That's another approach. And then we look at the levels of construction. We have the social programs, which are the low-cost housing, which government will have to be able to do, definitely. But then you have the other levels of construction, meaning you have all this need. I see the public servants, for example, having a need for housing, the BDF, the frontline workers, the police, the nurses, the doctors. Why is it that we have our public servants not having access to owning a home? And so that's one way of looking at it. So we're looking at possibilities of private-public partnerships. And that means that companies or businesses will have the ability to tap into the liquidity in the banks. Remember, we're not doing well economically, but the banks are liquid. I believe the Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance told us we have a liquidity of maybe $450 million in the banks. So government is the facilitator. Government will have to sit with the private sector, join the private sector, sit with the local banking institutions, and figure out a way to reduce the rates so that we can have people have access to lower interest rates when it pertains to homes. And how can government help too? Well, we can help by maybe subsidizing the cost of some of the materials, maybe reducing the cost of duties on some materials, so that if we want to really make that industry move forward. And then you have the strictly the private sector construction, and all they need is fair play. They just want to know that they also can have access to lesser rates in the bank, and that they are treated fairly. And you leave them alone. They have a market on their own. What I wouldn't want to happen is government starting to compete in the private sector with the regular construction. And that is something I don't believe we are going to do. But we're in the first phase, which is planning. And I recently had meetings with some lending institutions, and they were quite positive. They're opening up the doors now to see if we can work out something for grants or soft loans for housing, which was never available before. So we're looking at all of that, and that is again what we will present to cabinet. What we envision to do for this year is to start some of the pilot project homes so that we can have an idea where to put them, and then I will start implementing the application forms this year, so that we can start vetting the people that are eligible for these types of homes. And basically it is first-time landowners, and we are going through a full list of people that are in need. We don't want to be building homes for people that have homes already. And we don't want to be building homes for people that can do it with the second prong or the third prong approach. We need to be able to address the issue that I spoke of when you look out from that building and you see the level of poverty. Yeah. And the type of houses will be different, meaning the rural communities' reality is different than the urban areas. In Belize City, you don't have land, as I was discussing in the house. There's no land available, and the little land that they had in Belama has disappeared in front of our eyes. And so we might need to start considering going up and doing housing projects. So all of that analysis has to be done. So yes, I would like to start building homes right away. I have done it for 30 years. I think we know how to build homes. It's not that, it's to plan it and make sure that your programs are in place so that it is a successful endeavor. And so we're in that phase of the housing era.
So let me get your as we quickly run out of time, and I appreciate you responding to that question. But when you talk of the financial situation, we know that there is an issue brewing in looking at the public wage bill. You said the Minister of State and Finance keeps on reminding you that they're still in the position of borrowing $1 million a day to pay wages. You now have your team under you as well. What are your what's your position on the potential cuts for public servant or for the public wage bill?
I don't think anybody wants to be in a position to cut salaries. Private sector, public sector, nobody wants their salaries to be cut. It's the most difficult thing anybody can even imagine. And so I don't have a position, except it hurts my heart to even think of it. I believe we have other ways to minimize costs. I believe you have people that are being paid that don't go to work. So I think I would start there. You have people that have a job but don't work, meaning you have the ones that are being paid and they don't show up at all. So that's kind of obvious. Then you have the ones that are being paid and sit at a desk and do absolutely nothing, and you know why. And so I would also go in that direction. And then you have to look at efficiency of how you run a business. You have to be efficient in your approach. And so, like what I was saying, let's look at what we are using. For example, I have seen in our ministry a lot of abuse. I wouldn't call it abuse, but misuse. You have it, and if you don't use it, well, they don't give you more, so you use it because it's there. It's not because you have to. And everybody wants to drive around in a fancy ride that costs what, $200,000, but that's not a reality. And you have to be able to. In my opinion, I would like to start looking at fleets of vehicles of similar brands, so that and categorize the vehicles so that you don't have Tom, Dick, and Harry to drive SUVs all over the place. Meaning you standardize your purchase. Why? Because then you can buy at a better rate, and you have the parts available, and the parts are interchangeable. So that's maybe down the road, but I think that's the direction we need to go. So there's many ways, and I think the union to a large extent has mentioned some of them that we are contemplating. I know they are contemplating it, but an intelligent government, a responsible government, has to look at all possibilities. We were informed that our salaries will be cut by 10%. I think that was a positive move to show that we are also part of this movement. Some of us have decided that we won't drive government vehicles. I think that's, not all of us can do it, but the ones that can have decided not to. So I think that's also positive. And so we as leaders, I believe we have to show the example. Are we willing to walk the walk or just talk the talk? I think we are willing to walk the walk. But communication, Marlene and Gavin, I think is important. In a relationship, a lack of communication can bring down any good idea. And so our Prime Minister I've known him to be an excellent communicator. And so he has given instructions to all his ministers and public officers. Let's start the conversation. Let's figure a way forward. Let's look at how we can better it. That fake news that came out that they said that he said they will cut the salaries by 20% was not true. It was an idea brought forward to them. And you can't stop people from proposing ideas. And that's what we want. We want to be able to look at all the options. And at the end of the day, if we have to make a decision that is a bit difficult because it is necessary and important, then we have to justify it. And I think that is the way forward. So there's no much one.
One final point for me is looking at the proposed reconstitution of PAC, the Public Accounts Committee. We know you were the chairperson as the opposition, and you were very open about how the structure really hindered the possibility of being able to do proper investigation. Talk to us about your thoughts on this recent move, and also, it also takes the majority away from the government.
I'd like to raise my hand and say, 8 years, Marlene, 8 years of constant lobbying on both sides, meaning on convincing our side and now being able to pass it in the House. It's an achievement for Belize. It's an achievement for democracy. Why is it important? Well, the PAC is the only committee in the House of Representatives that does any level of oversight, and it has not functioned. It has not functioned because it is deeply politicized on both sides. We're all to blame. Politics gets into the way you think, and you don't want to listen to reason. And that's how they were treating us. And so the only way that you can make that oversight committee function was to make it as depoliticized as possible. And to achieve that was to bring in what we in Belize have, what the other Commonwealth countries don't all have, is that you have social partners already in your legislature in the Senate. That was a gift, the way we saw it. I did a lot of studies on it. I did some courses in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and that's why it was important for us to push. And I am so happy that the Prime Minister, along with Cabinet, gave us the nod to be able to do this as one of the major reforms before the 100 days was complete. We achieved 2 of 8 in the motion. Remember that motion we put in the House that some of on the other side were ridiculing that we were only grandstanding? Of the 8 points that were pushed forward in that motion, 2 have already been achieved as legislation. 1 was the oversight over the Contractor General, putting a layer of supervision. And 2, having the Public Accounts Committee restructured, and also having, which is one of the most important ones, having the hearings of the public accounts be mandated to be public at all times. You're not asking permission now for it to be held public. It is by law now to be held public. Why is that important? You've seen maybe on C-SPAN when you have the committees in the Congress where people, when you have a Senate hearing, when you have a senator to be, a judge to be appointed, or an ambassador to be appointed, or a money proposal needs to be passed.
You hear every question asked and every answer given.
Exactly. And why is that important? That's part of the transparency in the good governance. Transparency is important because the people have access to that information and can formulate in their own minds what is right and what is wrong. Your body language in those interviews tells half of the story. The way you answer tells the other half. And apart from that, the professionals that are involved, the ministers, the opposition members, whoever participates in those hearings, has to raise their ante. They can't say what they normally say in those meetings behind closed doors. And apart from that, with it being at the national level and everybody having this opportunity to look at it, people become scared of the fact of even wanting to be called to a public accounts committee hearing. So subconsciously they start doing the right thing so as not to be called. So it's like a trickle-down effect that helps you to fight corruption. And that's why it was so important for me that this reform be done. I'm really proud of our government to have decided to do this reform in the first 100 days. It is not easy, and it is rarely done that a government in power passes reform that allows themselves to be checked.
Well, I'm glad you said that.
To be looked upon. That is not normally seen in these recent times. So I'm so proud of our Prime Minister and our cabinet.
I'm very glad you said that, Minister. So let me just provoke a bit for a moment. If you were in opposition and you were the leader or the chairperson, would you, I mean, it seems very likely that the first proposal may be, you know, let's start monitoring the spending of this administration instead of going back into the deeds of my political party.
The beauty of it now is that the chairman cannot decide. You have so many people now, you have 9 members, so the group will have to decide. I would approach it slightly different. I would do parallel approach.
How important is it that you still review what took place? I mean, how far back? We've been in a constant position where the Public Accounts Committee, they live in the past. They're chasing the ghosts of the administration before them.
But why don't you do a parallel approach? We have reports that are tabled in the House that have never been reviewed. From 12 onward has never been reviewed. So do a parallel approach. 1 week, you do the analysis of the 2012 Auditor General report. In the second week, you do an analysis of present work that's being done by this government. The third week, you go and you look at 2014 if you want. Do a parallel approach. And so you can't blame that you're witch hunting. You're doing present and you're doing past until the past is completely done. Yeah. And then all the committee will have to do after in the second year is to do what is present. Okay. That would be a wonderful, they have a golden opportunity. If they find an excuse in not wanting to do their work, this is the tools I never had.
Yeah. I recall the many conversations we had with your frustrations at PAC.
This is an awesome opportunity to be able to be a chairman in opposition. Now you have your 2 members, plus you have 3 that you can override any decision by 4 members from government. Okay. I mean, let's get it on. Let's do the work.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to work then, since there is so much for you to do. But thank you so much for this conversation this morning.
No, it's a pleasure, and I would like to thank you for inviting me on your show, one of the more important shows in this country. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, are you looking for an opportunity to further your education? Then you definitely want to stay tuned. We'll get all the details about the Taiwanese scholarship that's being offered. Please stay tuned.
Love is a connection that should last forever. This February, NextGen is sharing the love with amazing promo deals for everyone. Reconnect or install with NextGen for free. Sign up for our affordable cable and high-speed internet plans and get 1 month free on your acquired service. But that's not all. New and reconnecting customers can now receive 1 month free MyTV subscription when you sign up with us anytime in February. Some restrictions apply. For more information on our promotions and services, contact us at 0800-222-5388 or via our social media platforms. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
Keeping safe from COVID-19 at your workplace requires 100% teamwork. You can keep earning while keeping yourself and others safe by doing some basic things. Wear a face mask at all times in the workplace unless you are alone in your own private space or office. Wash your hands frequently or utilize alcohol-based hand sanitizers and avoid touching your face. Disinfect surfaces like doorknobs, tables, desks, and handrails regularly. Increase ventilation by opening windows or adjusting air conditioning. Limit visitors and deliveries to the workplace and use appointments where possible. Attend meetings virtually as much as possible, and when not possible, hold meetings in open, well-ventilated spaces or rooms that allow for everyone to be 6 feet apart. Stay at home if you or a family member at home are feeling sick, or if you have been in contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19. Keeping the workplace safe also requires that employees act responsibly when away from work. Practice social distancing and good hand-washing hygiene. Avoid large gatherings and avoid unnecessary exposure to others. Protecting others means protecting yourself. Together, we can defeat COVID.
In partnership with the British High Commission.
And we're back, and we're moving into our final conversation for this morning, where we're going to get all the details about making use of the opportunity of the Taiwanese scholarships that are available. We have with us, to tell us more about it, we have Jillian Hu, who is the 3rd Secretary at the Taiwanese Embassy, and we have Dulce Palma, who is a 2018 Taiwan ICDF Scholarship recipient. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Well, it's lovely to have you both with us so that we can find out more. The Taiwanese scholarships have definitely become a highly competitive educational opportunity, and so I'm sure there are a lot of people watching to try to figure out how to get that edge. Let's start off with Jillian. You can give us a bit of an overview of the scholarships.
Yes, sure. So as Ms. Melanie already mentioned, the Taiwan Scholarship has already made its name in Belize, and for more than 10 years. We actually started launching the Taiwan ICDF scholarships in 2002 and the MOFA Taiwan scholarships in 2004. And we've sent totally almost 450 Belizean students to Taiwan. And currently, there are more than 100 Belizean students studying Taiwan. And without further ado, so what's new about this year's the 2021 Taiwan scholarships? So this year, we offer 30 programs for the Taiwan ICDF scholarship. The programs are all English taught, and they're ranging from bachelor, master's to PhD. And you have to be below the age of 50 to apply for the Taiwan ICDF scholarship. Well, for MOFA Taiwan scholarship, there's no specific programs that you have to choose from. Instead, you can choose whatever degree programs in whatever universities of your interest in Taiwan, which means that your program may be taught in Mandarin Chinese. So that's why for this MOFA Taiwan scholarship, we also include an optional 1-year maximum Mandarin study. So what are the benefits of the two scholarships? For the Taiwan ICDF scholarships, ranging, it depends on your degree program of your choice. You will receive a monthly stipend ranging from $400 to $550 plus your round trip flight tickets, tuition, textbooks, accommodation, credit fees, and insurance will be all paid directly by Taiwan ICDF. Well, for the MOFA Taiwan Scholarship, during the language program, you will receive a monthly stipend of $800. And during your degree program, you will receive a monthly stipend for $800. You may think that, so for MOFA Taiwan scholarships, the monthly stipend is higher than that offered by Taiwan ICDF, but those stipends are meant for you to cover your accommodation, insurance, textbooks, tuition, etc.
Yeah. So you pay for everything out of the stipend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these two scholarships are in nature. They are all full scholarships.
Okay.
So the main difference would be, for example, whether you'd like to study for a maximum 1 year Mandarin, or whether there are programs of your interest in the Taiwan ICDF scholarships.
Yeah. Where you can learn in English.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So for some, especially those who are already working, may not have the leisure to spend too many years in Taiwan, so they may opt to skip the Mandarin, the 1 year Mandarin period.
Yeah.
So they may simply choose an English talk program offered by the Taiwan ICDF.
Yeah.
Or you can still apply for an English program under MOFA Taiwan scholarships. And we've already updated a list of all the English programs offered by universities in Taiwan in this 2021 academic year.
Okay. And can you also talk a little bit about the application process and how to access the application?
Yes, sure. So the easiest way is to Google Taiwan Embassy in Belize, and under the section Taiwan Scholarships, we've updated the information on our website. So for both scholarships, the application form is accessible from our website. So you are simultaneously applying for the school, and you have to print out the application form and then submit it in person to the Taiwan Embassy. So for our embassy, we set the deadline for Taiwan ICDF to be the 15th of March. And for MOFA Taiwan Scholarship, that's the 30th of March. But for each school, it will have its own specific deadline. So better to check beforehand with the school of your interest. And after you submit the documents to Taiwan Embassy, we will verify whether it's complete or not. If it's incomplete, we will ask you to supplement your application so you won't be disqualified. That's why we still ask you to come to the embassy, but make an appointment before you come to submit your application. If your submission is complete, then we will arrange an interview for you. The interview will be conducted virtually via Skype, so you have to apply for a Skype account if you haven't had one. After the interview, the Taiwan Embassy will send a short list of applicants for both scholarships to Taiwan ICDF and to MOFA.
Yeah.
Then Taiwan ICDF and MOFA will inform the embassy by the end of June, that's June 30, the students successfully got accepted.
Yeah.
So the results of both scholarships will be announced by the end of June.
June, okay.
Yes.
So let's hear the personal story now. Dulce?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So you were a 2018 ICDF scholarship recipient. But what did you go and study?
So I went for my master's degree in business administration with concentration in international human resource development.
Oh, wow. What prompted you to apply for the scholarship?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to continue studying, and I got an email, strangely enough, I got an email from one of the program managers, and they asked me if I was willing to share it on my Facebook page, and I was going through it and everything, and I said, man, this opportunity seems amazing. And so I decided, you know what, let me try and apply.
Yeah. And what was the process like for you?
The process was relatively simple because literally everything that you need to know is listed on the website. For me, it was a little bit different because my undergraduate degree is from an international university, and so the process with that was a little bit more detailed, but with all the other application details, it was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And making the big step to move to Taiwan, what was that like?
Like with everything in life, you're never like fully ready, but you have to be able to get up one day and say, you know what, I'm ready for a change. I want to invest in my future, and Taiwan is willing to invest in my future as well. So, you know, why not take the opportunity and go? But I don't regret a day choosing to go to Taiwan. Taiwan is absolutely beautiful, and the experience was amazing.
So your program was in English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I am ICDF,
yes.
So ICDF students, all of the programs are in English, and then if you choose MOPA, you would more go towards the Chinese-based courses.
Okay. And what was it like? I mean, I think one of the fears people have very often is being in a country where you have no idea the basics of the language.
Yeah, it would be scary. It would be scary. But luckily, recently you have Google Translate. Google Translate will be your best friend throughout the entire experience. You also make international friends, so you make Taiwanese friends that help you along the journey. And ICDF offered us Chinese classes or Mandarin courses. And so we were able to learn basic Mandarin for the duration of our time studying. So that was also very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And
but like I said, it would be if you're a younger person going to a new country in Asia, you would be scared. I can't tell you that you're not gonna be scared, but the outcome and the reality when you get out there, it's if you learn to adapt and if you adapt quickly, you will have no issues.
Yeah.
And what would you tell somebody who is perhaps interested in applying but a bit hesitant?
If you are hesitant to apply, it's like a personal investment that you're making. Taiwan is already paying for literally every single thing. If they pay for airfare, they pay for tuition and fees, they pay for housing, they pay for insurance. Every single thing is covered, even books and Chinese classes. So it's a personal investment that you have to make. You have to get up one day and say that you want change for yourself. And literally nothing in life is going to be a smooth ride. You'll have obstacles, you'll have challenges, but it's worth it. The results in the end is definitely worth it.
Yeah. And so you completed your program in 2019?
I completed my program June 2020. I came back home in February, and then I did my thesis from home and my thesis defense. So I wasn't able to attend my graduation, but like you guys saw, we had a virtual graduation that I was able to attend. And my friends, they made a poster for me because I wasn't there, so that was really sweet of them.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, and I saw some of the images there. So yeah, the pandemic had already started.
The pandemic had started, but when you're in Taiwan, it's really, really safe. I just happened to come home before I came home for winter break, and when I came back home, borders closed, so I couldn't go back. But I did everything online, and the program managers, they helped me with that process. So my program managers are some of the sweetest people you will ever meet, Steven, Victor, and JC. They made sure that I submitted all my documents on time. They made sure that they sent me a list of everything that I needed to know. So it was a smooth process.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, looking at the competitiveness of the scholarship, every year it's more people applying for the Taiwanese scholarship. What do you think gave you that competitive edge, and what's your suggestion to people as they go through the application process?
I lived in Asia before, so I guess that kind of helped me. I was living in Asia for 3 years before this, prior. And also, I was open to new adventures and new cultures and learning a new language. You have to be open to learning all of these different things and being open to share your experiences and represent your country as well, you know. So we have the Independence Day parade out there, so you create a Belizean community, you have to always remember where you come from and keep that Belizean pride with you wherever you go. You have to be able to incorporate things that you've learned from your country and take it out there, and then learn things from their country and bring it back. It's a process that, you know, you have to be willing to share and be open and be honest about what are your expectations of the scholarship as well.
And also, perhaps Jillian can take
Yes.
that question and talk a little bit about tips or things that can make your scholarship application successful.
Sure. Exactly. I'd like to briefly giving some feedback to what Dulcie already mentioned. I especially like the point when she mentioned that by applying for a Taiwan scholarship, it's like investing in your own future, because actually that's what those two scholarships are meant for. That's to assist with the development needs of our partner countries, including Belize. So the main focus would be on the areas of Belize's development focus, for example, tropical agriculture, public health, education, and the IT industry. Then when you are applying for the scholarship, of course, we would be wondering whether you've studied the program itself, whether you have friends in Taiwan, because many of the applicants, they may be their first time to stay abroad, to live abroad for such a long time, and many of them are very young. So we are wondering whether they can adapt to a totally different culture. And then we will be asking questions like, what are the career prospects you have in mind? Because that's very important that after you complete the study programs, you will be returning back to Belize and then contribute to the fields of your specialty. And I also like to mention about the Mandarin environment in Taiwan, because while DUC went to Taiwan, that time we hadn't launched the pre-trip Mandarin support program. Because since a couple of years ago, after we have a Mandarin lecturer hosted by Taiwan ICDF, so every year before the scholarship recipients travel to Taiwan, they can register for, it's about 1 month or so, language learning program. So whether your program will be taught in Mandarin Chinese or all in English, you are all welcome to register the program. It's all for free for scholarship recipients. That's to better equip them for the Mandarin environment in Taiwan. And as Dulcie mentioned, she earned her degree in a foreign country, so not in Belize. So for applicants with an overseas degree, you have to have your diploma and transcript certified by the Republic of China Taiwan mission in that country before submitting those documents to Taiwan Embassy in Belize. Yes.
So that means, so what's the deadline for this application period?
So for MOFA Taiwan Scholarship, that's the end of March. And for Taiwan ICDF, that's the 15th of March. Because we are aware that for some of our missions in certain countries, they may be still closed. So you have to consult them for example, the online application, whether they accept online application or whether by post, because you are in Belize. So if you have any difficulties reaching out to them, or maybe that longer process caused a delay for your submission, you can simply let us know. We try to be flexible, especially in this time of the pandemic. And we really appreciate that we still received so many applications last year, because last year we've already been affected by COVID-19. So very grateful that so many Belizeans are choosing Taiwan.
Yeah. And they traveled, they went back, they went to school on schedule?
Actually, because we imposed then entry regulations on foreigners. So the international students were among the first of the groups of foreigners that's for we to relax our entry regulations.
Okay.
But usually we send the students to Taiwan early, because academic year starts in early September. So for them to have a very smooth transition, we usually send them to Taiwan at the end of August. But last year we sent them to Taiwan in early September, as I recall, late September. And then the last student departed on the first week of October.
Okay. So they weren't too late on their journey. Yeah. Okay.
Not really, and this year it's still depending on whether we relaxed entry regulations for international students. But we will keep everyone informed, and then their trips are, rest assured that their trips are taken care of by our embassy.
So where can people get the application form online? As you said, it's best to just Google it. And you have so many different helpful tips as to how people can get through the application. Any other advice you want to give people as to the application process?
I think the questions can be very school specific, because while applying for a school, the specific school may ask, for example, like your proof of financial support. So for those school-specific questions are better directed to that specific school. But what Taiwan Embassy can assist is liaising you maybe with the right school contact, so which will make the process easier. And if you have concerns over your application, your eligibility, for example, you are more than welcome to give us a call or send us an email so we can verify, for example, your application, or we can walk you through the process.
All right. And once again, as you said, everything is covered by the scholarship, from the flight, the insurance, the housing, the school fees, and a monthly stipend. It's a great opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the international students, they are entitled to work in Taiwan. So because I understand that some students may like to have a part-time job and earn some extra money to support their living.
Yeah.
That's possible, but you have to get the permission from school beforehand.
Okay. All right, Dulce, one last time, tell us why you would tell other young people to jump on the opportunity and apply for the scholarship.
So, this is our time to come out and, help develop our country. It's a great networking opportunity. They offer literally everything, guys. This is an opportunity that you cannot miss. Trust me, you don't want to miss Taiwan. The view is great. The food is amazing. You have different types of food that you could try. The language is a new experience to learn. Yeah, I would definitely go back.
All right. Well, that's a testament right there. If you say you'd do it all over again. Thank you both, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Malini and Gavin.
And with that, you heard it from Jillian and Dulce. You should, if you're interested, you should head over to the website to find out some more information all about these great scholarship opportunities. But with that, we are going to be taking our final break for this morning. And when we come back, we are going to have our wrap up. So please stay tuned.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being measured or cut off when you need to be connected? It's a fact that when you sign up for Smart's Plus plan, you get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. And it's a fact that you can sign up with your group of up to 5 members for Smart's Share plans and up to 40 members for Smart's Enterprise plans for unlimited talk, text, and data. Smart has the true unlimited plans. That's a fact. Be smart and live smart.
Phil? Phil is at the grocery store to pick up some items. Phil realized that he left his wallet at home. Except now, he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he has physical cash on him. All Phil has to do is use his Belize Bank e-wallet to conduct payment with ease when he arrives at the checkout counter. What is Phil about to do? Phil is about to shop cashless. Introducing eCash, powered by Belize Bank. eCash is an e-wallet, or otherwise known as a digital or mobile wallet, that provides the user ease and convenience of making digital payments. With Belize Bank's revolutionary product, you may wonder, where did this all come from? Digital payment can be traced back to 1997, when Coca-Cola launched a few vending machines in Helsinki that let customers purchase a can of soda via text message. Though very different from the modern-day e-wallet transactions, this is believed to be the origin of the idea. Since then, multiple companies have incorporated the concept of digital payment, thus making e-wallets today's most popular payment method. Belize Bank, a leader in innovative financial services, is getting ready to offer a digital wallet solution, eCash. Studies show that e-wallet offered by banks are most dependable and secure. If you've ever lost your physical wallet or were robbed, you know how awful the initial moment of panic feels. Well, no more. eCash is strongly protected, and your money will be safer than ever. At Belize Bank, you can rely on eCash transactions to be fast and easy to process. You can count on superior service. The digital payment revolution is here, and it's time to jump on board and welcome the awesome perks that eCash has to offer for everyone. eCash, powered by Belize Bank.
And we are back. And if you're joining us now, we're just getting our show wrapped up after a bunch of interesting conversations this morning. Of course, we had our first conversation with the Honorable Julius Espat, who's the Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing. We got to share a bit of his perspective on the things that have been going on in the ministry, some of the work that has already begun, and also some important issues that have been raised in the public discourse. We know that the House met last week and there were some revelations and some, big things that were discussed there, and we got to delve a little bit deeper into those this morning. So we want to say thank you to the Honorable Minister for coming in and sharing all of that with us this morning.
Yes. And we also want to thank the representatives from the Taiwanese Embassy and, of course, the past scholarship recipient for sharing both the personal experience and a bit of the tips as to how to get through the application process. So those deadlines are coming up in just a bit over a month, mid-March and end of March, and the two different types of scholarships. We did our best to try to distinguish them this morning. But the point is that both scholarships are full scholarships. They cover everything, including the airfare to Taiwan. It is an exceptional opportunity for you to further your studies and also immerse yourself in a brand new culture and way of living. If the pandemic has taught us adjustment, I'm sure people who travel to Taiwan for school adapted easier, because once you're in a new environment, that's what you learn to do. So do take advantage and make note of the fact that the application dates, or the application deadline, that is quickly approaching.
No, right? Absolutely. And of course, we did also start off our show talking a little bit about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I suppose we should say congrats to Raheem and the rest of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for being successful in their victory, and also giving Belize a little bit of representation at one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
Of course, they call him the Belizean Beast. I mean, that's some exposure right there. But here's the thing: he worked hard. Yeah. He's been moving forward in his career, and so it's a great personal success, and it's one that we share with him as well, just because that's who we are as Belizeans. We stand behind our own. So that we'll have that and all the other stories that we discussed in our newscast tonight. But for us, that's all the time we have for today. You can drop us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BC.
And on Instagram at OIEBelize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank, our country, your bank.